Hey, Real Talk listeners, it's David back here with another episode of the Real Talk podcast, and I'm really excited. I've told you guys this before. Interviewing anyone in any industry is very exciting, and it's something that causes me to grow, but I have a particular affection of having people that are in my real estate office on this show because I've been able to have a front row seat to their journey, get to learn from them, and that's exactly what we have going on today because I have one of our top groups in the entire state of Arizona, led by the owners of the Atkinson Group, Jim and Theresa Atkinson, in the studio with me.
Woo.
Guys, thanks for joining me.
Let's go.
I'm excited. And I'm excited to learn from you and with you guys. So my first question, take me back before real estate. You guys are both seasoned professionals. Take me back before real estate, though. What were you doing, and how did you get into this crazy business?
Flexibility. Now, we're both born and raised in Alaska and got married up there and decided that there was more to the world than just Alaska. So we ended up moving down to California, and I got connected with a company that was doing a nationwide expansion for financial planning. And from there, we ended up moving out to the East Coast and developing a network of financial planning offices. Then I broke off, started up my own financial planning, and had offices in Boston and Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Florida, and just kind of built that up. And then after 9/11, we decided we better get back to the West Coast side of the world, and if we wanted our kids to know their grandparents. And so that's kind of what brought us back to Arizona. But while I was doing financial planning, we were doing a lot of traveling. And, Teresa's job was such that, I'll let her talk a little bit about that, but her job was such that it was a little bit more definitive. And I said, you need some flexibility. And that's when she got into
Well, no,
it.
what really happened is we had all these great trips. He was going to Australia, and I needed to have the flexibility. So I'm like, well, what could I do and make money? And it was like I started real estate. And then I took on a partner originally when I started so that they could run the business so that I could go on all these cool trips with him.
So it was really driven by how can you guys spend more time together
Yes.
and how can you go on the cool trips
Right?
to Australia?
Yeah.
Australia, Europe, and yeah.
Okay, so you've been all over the place, and one of the things that I find interesting is also how like our birthplace, like where we're from, I think really feeds into just our personality and the way we approach life. I'm from Maine, and I like to say Maine has a rugged individualism about it and a hardiness, and I think that actually formed my work ethic in the way that it shows up today. I'm curious because I don't meet too many people from Alaska, and I'm curious, like, what would you say you learned, and how did Alaska and being brought up in Alaska impact both of you?
It's really weird when you meet Alaskans. They have a perseverance and a grit that basically they can get it done. They're self-doers, and they know that they can pretty much do anything. Anybody that I meet from Alaska that has that backbone is pretty much kind of how they're driven.
I see that like grit and perseverance in you guys. So you go into California, out to the East Coast. That's two wildly different like cultures as well. During the financial planning, because it sounds like you scaled this to a very successful business, Jim. Like, tell me about like some of the things that you learned about business during that stretch of your career.
Well, it was really about, we were doing a nationwide expansion. And everything had to be systematized. Everything had a certain way to do things or it would fall apart. And so that's probably the biggest thing that I learned from it is to remain consistent, have systems in place, do the same thing, do the grind, if you will, and you'll see great results at the other end.
So when you got into the business, Teresa, it was driven by some flexibility. I'm curious, anytime I talk to, and I should make it clear, you guys are, you said married. You guys are husband and wife. Sometimes I have male, female people in here, and they're not married, but you guys are. So that's a unique thing about your business is you are spouses in the business. I'm curious, like, what strengths do both of you bring to your current business? How are you wired, Teresa?
I would think that I'm basically in the Keller Williams world, the rainmaker, right? That's my strengths. Definitely client driven. That's my passion. That's what I want to do. And I think Jim brings the other half of the business that we've really seen come to fruition in the last year as part of our strengths.
Yeah, and you alluded to that in the financial world, everything being systematized, and I think that's really the hat that you tend to wear in the business. Is that an accurate reflection?
Yes and no. I mean, I go through and I've got a vision for what we're going to create, and I know what it's going to take to do it, and so I'd call myself more the driver towards that vision. You know, Teresa's being a little coy in the sense that she's really a systems person, and I come up with the ideas. And with our staff that we've developed, they take my ideas and they systematize everything. And I know it has to be in a system, but I'm not very good at creating the system, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And so that's where one of Teresa's big strengths is she can just help me take all my ideas, systematize them down, you know, get them in an order that makes sense. And then I just keep pushing and driving and prodding and trying to break the system and develop it from there, you know, build up more of the systems.
So we're definitely going to dive more into that later on in the conversation. But before we get too far ahead, like, I want to know about the early years of the real estate business for you. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it didn't sound like it was necessarily something that you're getting in to go like guns a-blazing and like really develop this massive thing. It sounded like it was driven more towards like, hey, I want a solid income and I want flexibility. So tell me about the early years. Like, what did you discover in the real estate business?
Well, I found that it was extremely lucrative. Basically, when I took on a partner, I wasn't that person out front. I actually went behind the scenes, and I had somebody that was extremely outgoing. He lead generated everything, and I basically did everything behind the scenes originally in the beginning. And that worked. It worked out great. It gave me the flexibility. I got into the business with that number of I wanted to make $100,000 in my first year because I felt that was a number that would make me feel successful. And I did it that year, and I've never been below that number. And but I was just driven that way. That was the number that I wanted to hit, and we did it. But eventually, but I was hiding behind the scenes. I was never that forefront person in the beginning of my real estate career.
Okay, I'm learning even about you as we have this conversation. Like, how were you able to operate behind the scenes? Like, is that your natural tendency to operate behind the scenes like that, or did that eat you alive?
No. I was totally comfortable there. It was something that I felt if I could partner up with somebody that he can be the outfront person and I could take everything off of him so that he didn't have to worry about any type of paper, I knew I would make him more productive. And as a team, that worked really great.
When did it start not working great? Or what happened to that partnership?
We ended up moving.
Okay.
We moved back east,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had to be kind of a solo. So I've sold real estate in Tucson. I've sold real estate in California. I've sold it in Washington, D.C., Maryland, that whole Virginia corridor. And then we came back here. And so I've had to develop my career in a bunch of different states over the years.
Wow. What did you learn about when you were moving from state to state? I find it awesome that you never fell below that threshold that you originally set for yourself. And that's a hard thing to do when you're geographically jumping from place to place. I've seen that in my own wife's business where she's continued to go up. She's not in the real estate space, but same thing. And I've watched I've learned things from her. I'm curious for you, how did you maintain that level of productivity even though you were bouncing from state to state?
I think I had the ability to look at who was successful in the real estate world or whatever company I was with, and I modeled them. I basically said, I'll hold any open houses that you have, shadowed them, did everything I could know about the area so that I could become the market expert in any place that I sold real estate. It was really important for me to know everything that I needed to know, and I kind of shadowed anybody that I thought was really great in that arena.
As you observed her during those years, what were some of the things that you were learning and seeing inside the real estate industry as I'm going to call you an outsider at that point, obviously in the financial sector, but as someone that wasn't actively engaged in buying and selling real estate, like what were some of the things that you were noticing about the industry? Do you remember?
What are you shaking your head? Yeah. That's probably the biggest thing. It's just really you can drop into any location, and it's a lot of the same things. You have to be the expert. You have to know what's going on in the area. And what I noticed probably more than anything is it's really about grit and determination and just having the belief that you can get it done. And it's similar to what I was doing in the sense of if you know the basics, if you know what needs to happen, you just have to do it. And once you do it and keep doing it, then you get the snowball. Instead of pushing it up the hill, it starts rolling down the hill. And that's when you can become successful in a relatively short period of time. I say relatively short period of time, but you have to do the work.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what it is.
Well, I think also that you came in and you saw that real estate agents didn't have a system. When you created that whole business plan behind my business years ago, and that's kind of what we kind of snowballed with.
Yep.
Yeah.
True.
Tell me a little bit about that business plan then, because it sounds like that was a pretty crucial element in the career. So was there something specific about that business plan, or?
The joke is, we've only been with KW or Keller Williams for 3 years, but the MREA book was our Bible for 25 years. I mean, we bought it when it came out and just started reading through it. And although we were only, I guess it's a level 1 or level 2, but we followed all of the advice on building up your database and communicating with them and letting them know that you're open for business.
It was funny. So back in those days, I called it the Bible back then. Maybe it was a precursor to know that I would end up here. This is fantastic. But it was like we'd open it up and we're like, we're doing the 33 touch. Like, this is what we're going to do. And he'd be like, okay, we're going to systematize this. And we did it based upon that book back years and years ago.
Well, yeah, and so approaching it was a little bit of a conversion therapy for you, and finally you converted to the light. So when you got back to Arizona, then Teresa, you from there on out you were operating as a solo, or you said you alluded to level 1 or level 2. For those of you guys who don't know MREA or Keller Williams, when we refer to like level 1 or level 2, basically a level 1 is the rainmaker themselves or the individual agent. Level 2 is when you really start to integrate some administrative capabilities into the business, usually through a transaction coordinator. And so it sounds like you were living in that space once you got back to Arizona. Tell me a little bit about, and actually I'm curious, what years was that when you got back to Arizona?
We moved back here in 2002.
2002.
So it was after
September 11th.
After 9/11. That's when we decided, it was pretty traumatic for our business being financial planning. New York got wiped out. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
Life-changing.
It was traumatic for our family, too, because we were living back. You have to understand, if you're from Alaska and all your family and friends are there, we had 3 small babies. We were living out in Virginia, and nobody goes from Alaska to Virginia in January. So our kids never got to see their grandparents, friends. So we decided to make some changes at that time.
Well, now that you say this, like, I want to honor the fact that was a pivotal point in your careers. Like, I mean, you had worked for so many years to build this thing up, and one cataclysmic event really just wipes out like a sector for a period of time. What were the things that you were like feeling and facing just as a human, Jim? Like seeing all kinds of like just life work just kind of, I don't know, come to a standstill. Like what were those feelings like?
It was just, I guess you just kind of shake it down and try to figure out what's really important in life. And family's always been extremely important in life for me. And the precursor to that, not to throw a downer on anything, but both my parents had passed away about 3 years before that. And so our kids were very young at that point, 2 and 1, something like that. And so they never got to know my parents. And as a driving force, I just looked at it and said, they've got to know Teresa's parents. That's important to me. And so it was worth it. It's like, all right, well, we're going to change things up, and we're going to move back. We're going to get back over the west side of the states and go from there. So it was really more about just keeping the family as a unit, I guess. Good way to put it.
Well, and the phrase that kind of comes to my mind is just like honoring your values as well. And like one thing that I've always appreciated in you guys is watching the dynamic as both a husband and wife in the business, and also I've seen your daughter a little bit in the business at times. It's, I've always looked at you two as people who like keep family right at the top, and that is a key value. And you guys, you love to work hard together, you love to play hard together, and I think I think others see that in you, and that's really neat. So as you get back to Arizona then, and you're kind of living in this solo world, what were some of the things that were happening? What were some of the frustrations that you came up with during those years? I mean, 2002, you have this massive run up, very lucrative, then you're living through a crash. So take us into those years a little bit.
Back in those days, we just, whether it's a crash or whether the market's doing well, it's just, you just figure it out. And we did. We basically coined niche marketing. I started our business in McDowell Mountain Ranch. We kind of did sister communities. We did McDowell Mountain Ranch, Greyhawk, and DC Ranch, and we concentrated on those areas, but mainly McDowell Mountain Ranch because it was my footprint. We had 3 small kids at the time. They were in school, so we were doing all the events. We were sponsoring things, and our kids were playing hockey and soccer, and we just submerged into the community and built our business that way.
So it's really cool, and we're getting to like present day, but you have in the financial industry, you have this big national expansion happening, and then you have this local contraction happening to honor your family, right? And now in your business, you're starting to see this expansion effect again, right? And I think that's an interesting dynamic that we'll dive into. I'm curious, like what prompted you, the 3 of us meet a few years ago, and we start talking, and it was a change. You decided to leave the brokerage that you're at and come into our world. I'm less interested in the brokerage change and more interested in, was there something from your strategic vantage point or something in your vision that was changing during those years of making that transition into, Keller Williams?
Without a doubt. Teresa's been in real estate by the time we came over here, close to 30 years. I ended up getting my license in 2004, and then got my broker's license a few years after that. And part of the reason why I got my broker's license, just to back up a minute, is because we had a lot of people, when the market crashed in 08, 9, 10, 11, 12, there was a lot of investors that came in. And one of the things that we did is we worked with investors and people from Alaska as well, and people were buying second homes. And we were referring these investors off to other property management companies. And the property management companies weren't providing the support for our clients that they were accustomed to. And so that's part of why I got my brokerage license, is we did start up a property management business strictly to take care of our clients and give them that 5-star service. And we had that business going along with Teresa's business, and then it kind of became a feeder for, tenants would be buying, and, it was just another way to add additional people. But we kept it small on purpose so that we could provide great service.
So it was a value-added service that then also became a lead generator
Yes.
inside of the business.
Yep.
Okay, so you're running these businesses, alongside of one another, and really, I mean, if I remember and can reflect back a few years ago, it was almost like, what does it look like to start playing in each other's sandbox a little bit more? Because you were driving real estate sales, you're doing the property management company. Yes, there's some crossover and you're helping one another. But like in 2020, what was that? 2021, 2022, 2022?
Yep.
Yeah, I can't remember. Time goes by fast.
Yeah, 22, yeah.
That's when there was
January.
like, it seemed like this like pivotal moment of like, boom, we're going to like jump into like alignment and really move forward.
Well, I'll tell you what drove a lot of that. It is, fast forward in our kids have graduated from school at this point, graduated from college. They're off doing their things. We're empty nesters now. And real estate has always provided us with a great lifestyle. I mean, I won't say it's always been, roses and cherries. There's ups and downs like any business. But it really provided us with a great lifestyle. And we started thinking about it going, okay, how do we give back to the community? And that's when we really started thinking about how can we work and develop a team. Teams were becoming a more and more of a thing in the real estate industry. And we knew we had the knowledge. We knew we had the systems that we were able to do on a very small level. And we started thinking about it, just going, how do we grow this and teach not only new people how to do the business correctly, but also there's a lot of existing agents out there that have done well, but they don't know why they did well. And so we started to develop this team simply to provide knowledge and guidance and help other people have a great lifestyle in real estate. Because real estate is a great lifestyle. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You just got to work it.
I think the pivotal part of that started the whole ball rolling is I was at a stage in my career that my database created a great lifestyle. I haven't picked up a phone to call people. I didn't prospect anything like that. And I just got to a stage where I guess if you'd say is just kind of mundane. It was just my business supported us and still does, my database that we've developed over the years. But all of a sudden it was a crossroads that just said, we need to change. And we wanted to give back. I'd always had a vision to have a team and to be able to help develop other agents to be more successful than me. And it just shifted. And all of a sudden we started talking about it and we're like, I think this is the time when we need to do this.
It's really neat how it coincides with the family and some of the family dynamics that are happening. It also coincides with this, giving back and adding value, similar to I only start property management just as a value to the people that are already in our world. It's like now I want to give back and add value to the real estate community because I know that I can show others how we've been successful. So. All right, so you start down this path of going from, level 2, let's call it, to, okay, let's actually scale this up and become the Atkinson Group, right? It's not just driven on Teresa being a rainmaker, going out and getting those listings. It's now the collective. And I just want to note, too, like in a pretty challenging year by most industry pundit standards, like, our units are down across the country and, there's less business to be had. Teresa, your individual production in the last 12 months is up almost 40%. Your team's production is up almost 60%. I mean, that's amazing. And so I really want to talk to you about what have you been doing to lead to that level of success?
Well, been spending time creating the systems. I mean, it's turned out. We have a very unique situation in the sense that we work really well together. And I know a lot of couples that could never work together. I mean, they'd kill each other on day 2, which I understand.
That's my wife and I.
I don't think you're alone. But we just really work well together. And Teresa, we talked about it, and she turned me loose. She said, look, let's build it. Let's just do it. It's like, all right, well, we got to start. Here's what I know. I know what my limitations are. And so we need to hire around what my limitations are so we can get everything done that needs to get done. And really, that's when we dove in. We joined Keller Williams. We, of course, interviewed with everybody, else out there in brokerage land. And ultimately, we came, I guess a good way to put it is we came back home. We've been following the MREA, or Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, for 20-something years. And it's like, you know what? These guys started it. They're not the new shiny penny out there. But you know what? It's proven systems. And so that's what we started doing, is just going through. And I say we're lucky because Teresa, like she said, all she has to do is wake up, and her database is going to provide referrals and transactions and everything. But, we also took 20 years to build the database. So
Right.
It wasn't just, it's amazing what happens as an overnight success, right?
Yep.
20 years later. But anyways, I started going through all of the training at Keller Williams. I mean, Kristen Cole did tremendous classes, and I attended the classes not just once, but 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, just so I could really grasp it. And as we continued to build our systems, I would learn more every time I attended a new class. And we would add that into our documentation, whether it be our quick start guide or our 30, 60, 90, or the training programs that we do for our agents, and just really developed the systems and kept working on it. Mm-hmm. And I think this last year especially, we're at the point now where our systems are pretty well in place. We've been able to recruit people and test the systems. I say I try to break the systems because I want to expand them. I want to find out where the problems are so that we can fix the problems and then go a little bit further. And that's really what we've been doing for the last 3 years or so.
The way I describe what you just said is like you've before you can build the house up, you've got to do all of the plumbing and the electrical, and that's what system building is. You're doing the plumbing and the electrical, the things that most people aren't going to see. Most clients aren't necessarily going to understand what's going on in the back end, but it's the very thing that's going to turn the lights on. It's the very thing that's going to secure the home, right? And I think that always takes longer than what people think it's going to take. That's something that I've found before. It's like, I overestimate what we're going to do in a year, but I underestimate that if little by little we keep putting the work in, we'll accomplish that in 3 or 4 or 5 years. I'm curious, as you start to max out your systems and you're refining them and then trying to expand them, like, was there a common, I guess I'll call it like a fail point? Was there any place that just like over and over, it was like, this is the thing that gets exhausted the quickest, the most, and it's failing over and over? Was there anything like that?
I don't know if there'd be one specific thing.
Okay.
We're pretty good. I'm pretty good at seeing things into the future, if you will, where when we start, for example, if we hired on 3 agents and then we start them through the system, I'm communicating with our admin and my marketing people so that I want to know where they're bumping into a problem. And so I'm trying to minimize the problem before it becomes a big problem. And I think communication is just the key on that one. I've got great back office people that are really helping us build this team. They understand the vision, and they're phenomenal. But it's really about the communication though also, because they're not scared to say, hey, we're getting stretched over here, or hey, bring some more on, I've got time available. And so that way I can just really gauge how much we can push.
We've made adjustments for that.
How do you guys foster like some of the things that I see, when you're making that jump from, I like to call it salesmanship to leadership, and what you guys are describing in team building is leadership. I'm curious, how do you guys foster an environment where you have people that come to you on both ends of the spectrum and are willing to say, like, we're maxing out here and it's not going to lead to a good result, but also are willing to say, like, I've got a ton of bandwidth, like, bring it on. Is there anything, like, any hacks or tips or things that you've learned along the way to create that type of culture in your team?
Well, that's a good question. I think probably the biggest part of it is just having open communication. I've got and part of that communication is the vision that I'm casting out there of what our team is going to look like a year from now, 5 years from now, how they fit into what the team's going to look like and where they fit in, and just make sure that they realize that there's no right or wrong. It's just, let's talk about it. Let's make sure that we don't get blindsided by something, and that we're in communication. We're letting the information flow.
The admin, they're so in tune to what we have going on. They can be like, I'm totally maxed out here, or let's make adjustments here. And they're so key in giving us that information so that we can make the changes and make it run smoother if we need to.
There's several strengths that I see in you guys and in your business. I love that I get to look under the hood of it with you guys regularly. And you've alluded to a few of them. You've always both been learning-based people. Okay, you've never been someone to come into a room and just have this posture of like, oh, I've got it figured out. Even when you're superseding the majority of agents, not just in one office, but all of our offices, and really just real estate agents and teams in general. Like, you guys rank right up at the top, but there's always a posture of how can I learn and how can I get better? I think the other thing that I see in you guys, and you've talked about it, is you're not necessarily looking for the shiny penny to just be entrepreneurial. You have an entrepreneurial drive and grit. However, if there's a system there that's been successful, you're like, why don't I just succeed through this system? And that comes to mind right now because you talk about your administrative team. And I've told you guys before, like, you guys, I believe one of the reasons why you are successful is you have put so much time and energy into cultivating those people that are on your ops team and recognizing, I need to hire for my weaknesses. What would you tell people about investing in an ops team? Because I know that many rainmakers, many people that want to go down this team building journey, because I consult with them all the time. Hey, should I pay my person straight commission? Should I, I don't know if I should really invest in this area, and retaining talent's difficult. So what would you tell someone on investing in their operations team?
I think it's imperative. I think it's the first step. I mean, I've talked to people that are building teams, and they're a rainmaker, and then they're going out and getting buyer's agents, and they're basically trying to take the part of the job that they don't like and put it on someone else, which is fine, but it depends on what your vision is. How big do you want to get? How stable do you want to be? And that's why we spent so much time building our foundation. I want to grow bigger, but also I don't want to get the job back. And that's
Right.
Yep.
Once I give a job away, I don't want it back. And what I've really learned, and part of this is from the classes that Kristen gave and other classes I've attended, is everyone has their specialty. Just because I don't like paperwork, I'm terrible at paperwork, there's other people that absolutely love it. That's what they live for. And I'm like, wow, really? Okay, well, let's use them. I mean, because that frees me up. And you talk about working in your 20%. That frees me up to work in my 20%. And what I've learned from that is it makes you even more productive. And you can spend more time working in the business and on the business, working on the business rather than in the business. And that's the important part. If you want to grow as a team, I think you have to give away and not take back that 80% that just dulls your knife. It just doesn't get you up in the morning. You want to work on that 20% that gets you up in the morning and says, yeah, this can be a great day.
Another way of describing that, like 20% that energizes you, is like it's working in your unique ability. And I think that one of the things when you make the mistake of hiring more salespeople because you're overwhelmed and you have this spike in your business, is you're actually hiring something that probably is your unique ability, meaning it's the sales piece. And then, well, you're going to naturally cling to that even more than we tend to cling to the thing we don't like. So it's like, I always just caution people, okay, it's your business to run. And if you're going to go down this route, like, how are you delivering on keeping that buyer's agent in their unique ability if you haven't solved for the thing that neither of your profiles usually like? Right. And it's not to say that all mega agents, rainmakers don't. Teresa, mega agent, you can do the systems, you can do those things, you're good at those things. The majority of agents just high I, high D, put me in front of people, let me close deals and let me get it off my plate. So we've got to solve for the thing that's actually their pain point. And when we go support preceding sales in the hiring process, great. We're investing in solving that problem that most agents out there don't want to have anything to do with. So then it makes us a more recruitable team or attractive team when we're recruiting. That's another thing that you've done well over the last year, attracting talent. What's your secret to attracting talent, guys?
Right.
Yeah.
I think the more that we grow our team, our culture becomes really apparent. Work hard, play hard. And it just seems to be who we're attracting. He's getting to a point right now. I mean, he can be recruiting, and it's just like, right now if they're going to fit in the culture. We have our team,
Right.
and it's becoming a lot more clear as we grow and go on this journey of growing out the team. But it's becoming very apparent on who's going to be in our culture and on our team.
And part of that is also because we've clarified it for ourselves. And when you have a vision of what your team is going to look like, you don't know exactly what it's going to look like when you start off. And then as you start to work with people and you start to do different parts of this business, you learn more about who you want to be surrounded by. And so for example, I'm constantly interviewing people. Not everyone's a fit for our team because we do things a little bit differently than other teams do. And I'm okay with that. And the people that we're looking to bring on and join the team, they understand that too. And they're good with that. And so that's how our team is growing. And it's kind of cool because now we've got people on our team referring other agents to our team that say, hey, I think this person would be a good fit. And so that's when I know, okay, we got the right people.
That's what's evolving right now, which is fantastic. I mean, a lot of the newest agents that we have either come to us or they've referred people to us through other people in the company.
About a year ago, we made a fundamental shift across all of our offices to say, okay, if we have rainmakers that, are the type of rainmakers that we want, then why would we not just continue to invest in them more so that they become the attractive force behind growing, whether they're growing their team or they're going out and saying, you know what, these are the agents that I want to be in business with. They're the ones I like. And we started to adopt that through different masterminds and the way that we've constructed our leadership council and things like that. It's just like, you know what, let's just go out and spend the most time working and having fun with the people that we want to work and have fun with. And aren't they just going to help be that magnet for us? And we found that to be true. And it sounds like on a team level, you guys have found that to be true as well. When you were saying, you were bringing culture back to vision, I forget which mentor of mine, it was during my college years though, he said something to the effect of, grasp tightly to the vision and hold loosely to the map. And what he meant by that was you've got to be dogged about where you're going, but how you get there is going to change. And if you're too rigid about how you're going to get there, you're going to burn the people out that are around you. You're going to not have a posture of humility, right? And I think we've all had those failures, and we've had to grow in those areas as leaders. And I'm curious, like where do you guys go from here? The team has experienced massive growth. You have agents that are producing. You have agents. We just had our holiday party as a company, and I one of your agents is sticking in my mind. She was dancing, just having the time of her life. It was that work hard, play hard mentality. What's next? Like, where do you see as you look at the industry, as you look at Arizona real estate? Where are the areas of opportunity for the Atkinson Group?
There's tons of opportunity.
I think it's honing in skills.
Yeah,
And
if you look for the opportunity, it's there. And it doesn't matter if it's our team or anybody else. There's tons of opportunity. We're in America. This is great. And what we're doing at this point in time is just developing a whole nother facet on our marketing side. And I think that that's going to really be a game changer for what we're doing and the type of people that we're going to be able to attract. And so I think that's really where our opportunity lies. We've got a great base team right now, and I'm looking to grow it and expand it this year to a certain point. But really what's going to build a moat around us is the marketing that we're doing. I tell people we're prospecting based team, marketing enhanced. And now we're at the point in time where we're really putting forth the effort on the marketing side of things. And I think that's going to be a game changer for us.
Anything that you'd add, Teresa?
I just think that's a total general overview. But I mean, everything from our listing presentations to our buyer presentations to the developing of our I was going to say ISA, internal sales agent, right? And the different pillars that we've had to create this year, I think are going to really grow in 2025.
Yeah. Well, there's so much opportunity, and I know I've just been bragging on you. Don't get a big head, but you guys have been doing a fabulous job. It's not been all, what did you say, roses and cherries?
Yeah, right.
That was the first time I heard it put that way. Thanks for letting me yank your chain a little bit. But it's not all been roses and cherries, and yet like the general direction has been an upward trajectory, and it's really awesome to be in business with you guys. I'd sit here and dive deeper into, I mean, you just referenced ISA, and like we'll come back and do another episode as you continue to build that out, because that's a whole segment of the business that I think is going to take on a life of its own and really fit into this overhaul of marketing and prospecting, and it's going to deliver a huge level of value to your sales agents. But for right now, and for sake of time, I'm going to transition us into the last segment of my show. It's 3, 2, 1, action. You're on the hot seat. It's the same 3 questions I've asked since the inception of this show. Super hard hitting.
Boom.
Like hot ones. No, it's not too bad. But I'm going to ask them to both of you, okay? And you have to give individual answers. First question. What book has been most influential on your business and why?
Go ahead.
Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Good one. Jim?
Yeah, she stole my thunder on that one.
Pick another one.
I'd have to say, because I read it early on in my career, was Napoleon Hill, How to Think and Grow Rich. Just having that mindset.
Yeah. All of us were in the room at our leadership retreat, and we actually referenced, like, it's not just grow rich, it's think. Like, it starts in the mind.
Yes.
Right? And, I think sometimes we all have a tendency to, like, move away from these basic core principles because we're like, there has to be something else. But one of the reasons we spend so much time inside our offices on mindset is because your mindset changes every single day. And like, you've got to stay in the right frame of mind. So I love both of those books. How to Win Friends and Influence People is, I mean, man, that is the guidebook.
Yep.
Isn't it? Yeah, that's so good. So that was a business question. And since coming back last season and undergoing a little bit of a change, we changed the name of the podcast and everything. I've changed this question just slightly. I used to ask people, like, what person has had the biggest impact on your business and why? But since the last season, I've been asking it this way. And I've so much of our life and business go together. You guys have alluded to that and how you've like approached family in your business. We're not just like silos. We're not robots. It all works together. And so I'm more interested in who's the single person that's had the biggest influence on your life and why?
You're up.
I'm up. Actually, it's Jim.
Why?
He's a much bigger thinker than I am, and he can take me to places that I never thought I could go mentally or throughout our journey, our whole entire life. It's just, I'm pretty much, we have a joke that I'm on the pond and he's on the river, right? So he can see the vision and he can get there, and he's just been really great over the years to get me to understand I can get there. And so it's him. Yeah.
If I can dive a little bit deeper on that. Have you always received that bigger vision well, or
No.
you guys have been together for a long
No.
time? Like, I've got to imagine that there's been times where that's created even conflict. And as someone who I think has a similar dynamic in my own relationship, I'm just curious, like, what have you learned about marriage is a dance, partnership's a dance. Like, what have you learned about like dancing with each other, like in that regard?
I just trust it 100%. If he says that this is where we're going to go, I know that he's created it safe for me, right? Like, I know that I can go on that journey, and where we're going to end up is probably better than where I'm at right now.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Jim, how about you?
All right. Well, I didn't expect that. Thanks. But this is going to sound totally corny, but it's Teresa. And the reason why is because she has probably given me more support and challenged me more than anyone else in my life. You know, I mentioned, I probably would have said, my mom or dad, but they unfortunately passed 27 years ago or so. So over the last 27 years, Teresa's kind of been behind me and just really said, go, do it. And that support is...
Okay, here we go.
Water skiing on the river.
Did I just say that?
it just, I go back to the old question. If you could do anything in the world you wanted to, and you knew you would not fail, what would you do? And that's what she gives me the power to do. So we're doing it.
You said two words that I think are crucial in any business partnership or personal relationship, and it's I trust him, and he makes me feel safe. And you really described the same thing, and it's just from a different perspective on the diamond. It's you have her trust, and so it makes you even be more daring.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you're a listener, like, and you're either in business partnership with your spouse or just like trying to navigate a personal relationship, there's so much power in like the last 2 minutes if you listen closely to what it is, what the seedling is that has helped you guys create something really beautiful together. And I really appreciate you guys sharing that. The third question isn't quite as personal, although after that I kind of want to dive
we
really.
just went there.
I really want to go deep there now. But the third question is, my favorite phrase, and it used to be the name of this podcast. It's all in. Like, it's on a flag behind on my desk. Like, I just do not like to half-ass stuff. And if I'm gonna commit to it, like I'm all in 100%. And so the last question really like is born out of that philosophy. If you were talking to an agent, new, experienced, and they're like, "Hey, I'm ready to break through my ceiling. I'm ready to push the chips all in on real estate. What should my first step be?" What would you tell them?
You have one?
No, you can.
Yeah, that's a great question. And if you're going to go all in, you got to be committed. And I would start small. Pick an area, whether it's farming, whether it's open houses, whatever activity you're going to do, and commit to it. And when it doesn't work, look at it, think about it. Is it because you're not doing it correctly? You need training on it? But the bottom line is what you're going to commit to it and do it well.
I agree. So in our team right now, I'm seeing a lot of this. And because I'm a seasoned agent and I'm looking at the newer agents trying to find a shiny penny, and they're all over the board, and I would have to go back to the one thing. We're trying to teach them to find the one thing and do it great. And that's the one thing that we've been trying to kind of help them with rather than have them be all over the place. So I would have to say, pick one thing and be great at it.
And I've seen that in your business as well. You guys take progressive action forward because I think you take it in small chunks.
Yes.
And it may not always be, right? I'm not on your shoulder 24/7, but what I see outside looking in is that you're willing to say, okay, yeah, we could do all these things, and maybe in the vision map, like all these things exist, but you know what? We're not going to tackle them all at once. We're going to take this backwards, and we're going to take what is one action that I can take today such that it moves us forward.
Right.
And that commitment level to just doing that one thing is what over time catapults you to success. Guys, I think this is your hockey stick year, right? I think it's You have already started on this trajectory of upward growth, and I just think it's going to totally hockey stick this year. And I'm excited that I get to be your business partner in it. It's so much fun to watch you guys grow. I know that after this episode airs, you guys are going to get people that want more of the shiny pennies. Like, tell me more of the shiny pennies. And you're going to be like, it's not a shiny penny. It's just exactly what we've been talking about all episode. But where can people find you? Where can they connect to you? And if they need an Arizona real estate connection, how do they get in touch with you?
Probably the best way is through our website, theatkinsongroup.com. And we of course, contact us from there, join our team, buy and sell real estate, all of that type of stuff. Teresa's on, I don't do a lot of social media, so that's Teresa's part over there on Facebook or Instagram.
I think theatkinsongroup.com.
Atkinsongroup.com.
Yep.
Awesome. Guys, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your insights. Had a lot of fun with you on this episode. And I'm excited to continue down this journey with you.
Yep. Thanks for having us. And it's going to should be a pretty fun year. And if it's not, we're going to grind through it.
Make it happen.
Whether it's up, down, all around, it's going to be one thing. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. It will be.
Because that's just how we play the game. Guys, this has been another episode of Real Talk with David. As always, go play all in.